Well, Christopher Columbus, when he wrote in his diary about his encounter here. So for those who don't know, Christopher Columbus, on his fourth voyage to discover the Americas.
Well,
obviously not discovered.
Yeah, it's not discovered, but he found it.
Yeah, landed in the Americas. He stopped on Guanaja, which is on 1502, Bonaca, and he called it the Island of the Pines because it was filled with pine trees back then. But he wrote in his diary like a really interesting account of his, how he met those people, the kind of materials they had, how they lived on the island. And that account is, really valuable. And a lot of the items that we found here on Utila kind of correlate with that.
La antropología es muy importante porque así podemos saber de dónde venimos. El día de hoy estamos con Tom Brown, que es un biólogo y también conocedor de la historia de Utila. Mi nombre es Andrea y bienvenidos a Raíces del Ser podcast. Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are and when did you came to Utila?
Okay, so my name's Tom Brown. I'm originally from England and I am a biologist by trade. I first came to Honduras in 2016. I was a student. I came here to collect data for my dissertation thesis project. And basically I just fell in love with the nature of Honduras, the mountains, the forest. It was like a completely different world, something I'd never experienced before. So
that's amazing. So you were studying you're from England, right?
Yes.
So you were studying back in England and then you had like a project here in Honduras and you came.
Yeah, so it was basically part of a big expedition group called Operation Wallacea. They still do expeditions in the mainland today.
Wow.
In Parque Nacional Cusuco near San Pedro Sula. And my project specifically was looking at chytrid fungus, which is affecting amphibians in the park. So swabbing frogs and testing them for this fungus that's killing them.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So currently nowadays, what are you doing in Utila? Like, what is your job? What do you do here? Because I heard that you do a lot.
Yes, I'm always busy, but I love it that way. Basically, I arrived to Utila in 2016. I met a couple of founders of this organization, and they really gave me an excellent opportunity really to run with it and see where I could take it in time. So that's basically what I've been up to. Our project covers everything really, from lots of conservation work, looking at different biodiversity and species that we're trying to protect here on the island, but also investigation, research, writing lots of scientific articles, and trying to increase the knowledge.
And that is Kanahau, right?
Kanahau,
so
yeah.
Kanahau was the one who gave you the first opportunity to come here as a biologist, basically.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So before I was just working, temporary, doing 2 months a year in Honduras, expeditions, camping. But yeah, this really gave me a foothold to stay in the country and to work and follow what I was really passionate about.
So as everybody can see, we are here. This is going to be the new Museum of Utila that it's opening very soon. So if you guys want to come when you come and visit. And Tom here is the one that is in charge of the grand opening. So how this happened?
Well, the museum project has been in the making a long time. It's been a slow process. We actually started it in 2020, so it's fairly recent. And yeah, it just started by opportunity really, doing lots of field work, exploring, discovering a few interesting things. And that really drove me to set up a museum project because I was discovering things and I was like, why is no one talking about this or any efforts to protect it? So that really drove me to set it up.
Yes, no, I agree with you. That's definitely like very interesting. So if people come here and when they come here, what they can find here, like what type of things, cultural, scientific, can find in this museum?
So the museum's focused on natural and cultural history. So we're trying to really highlight the strong connection between the island's nature and the culture. So basically here you can find all sorts of taxidermy and biological specimens that we've collected during fieldwork. All for research and investigation. We have a collection of cetaceans like whale bones, dolphins, all marine life, terrestrial. And then of course we have the kind of archaeological history section, which focuses on kind of the Paya Indians who were here first, and then the kind of colonial and modern Bay Islands history.
Amazing, yes, like I saw around a little bit before we start, and I saw like there was a crocodile.
Yeah.
So are they extant in Utila already, or when was the last time you saw a crocodile in Utila?
So crocodiles there used to be a lot of crocodiles in Utila.
Wow.
Like if you go back to like 1920s.
In the lagoon?
In the lagoons, yeah.
In the ocean?
And the canal, yeah, the ocean around the coast. So they can tolerate salt water, but mostly in fresh water. But yeah, the island used to be filled with crocodiles, but most of them got hunted to extinction in like 1920s, 1930s, because local people were selling the skins, and that was really good money back then for fashion industry. And then, yeah, basically they kind of got hunted out to extinction, but nowadays we still see them after storms and hurricanes, so they get washed out to sea from different places, and they end up arriving on Utila. So there's still crocodiles on Roatan, and of course all throughout mainland Honduras. The last one I saw here was in, last year in July 2024.
Where?
Someone took a video of it off the bridge at the point near Bando Beach.
No way.
Someone took
Just
a video
there?
of the crocodiles swimming into the lagoon there. It looked really big. I did try to find it afterwards, but I didn't have
That
any
is
luck.
crazy. Imagine if somebody were swimming there.
Oh yeah, it would be
That would
quite
be
a shock. Yeah,
that would be quite a shock. I would never imagine here in Utila, like, oh, I'm gonna go and swim, because I have seen people that they jump from the bridge just for fun.
Oh yeah, of course.
A lot of people, and like seeing a crocodile
Oh
there.
yeah, it would be. Yeah.
That would be very scary.
Yeah, no one expects that they're here still.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
No one really
No,
knows that they live here or they're natural to the island. They've
Yes,
been
of
gone
course.
for so many years, so when one shows up, it's a really big deal.
Yes, that is so interesting, and like I just realized that because like you have like the skin and like an article about that. So when people come, they will realize about a lot of things that it's going on here in the island that they didn't know about.
Oh yeah, there's so many secrets to
There are many-
discover. Oh yeah.
So many secrets. So do you dive?
I do, well, I don't really consider myself a big diver compared to the rest of the dive community here.
But you dive
obviously.
for investigation.
Yeah, I have my advanced PADI, but yeah, I mean, that's essentially how I ended up on the island in the first place. Everyone comes here, learns to dive.
To dive, yeah.
And
That's...
I was no different, so
Nice.
that's how I started here.
Have you found something like when you are diving, like in the ocean, that you're concerned about, that you want to share to people?
I think, well, in the 9 or so years that I've been here, the biggest change that I've seen underwater is definitely the coral reef cover. They're facing a lot of threats right now: climate change, coral bleaching, and algae, nutrients, kind of overfishing of the reef as well, removing important species. There's a lot of different influences tying together that are impacting the oceans right now, so they're in a lot of trouble, really.
Yes, a lot of trouble.
But still a really beautiful ecosystem here, and it's worthy of protecting.
Do you think that people can help for like the coral to be better, or to not hurt the ecosystem when they visit Utila?
Yeah.
What they can do for that?
So there's a few easy things that your average person can do to protect the coral reef. One of them is wearing like reef-friendly sunscreen. Like if you're on the beach or swimming, you have special brands of sunscreen that aren't affecting the corals. And other things, like you can be involved in beach cleanups, just picking up trash, making sure no plastic enters the ocean. Just being kind of courteous about how you enter the sea, like where you step in, make sure you're not walking on corals or
Do not take anything
touching
from
things.
you.
Of course, taking starfish out and things like that for photos. All a big no-no.
Yes, no. How do you think like Honduran people can be more involved like in these projects?
I think, well, the first thing is just having an interest, I think, like pursuing it and really being proud of your cultural history and of the environment, And it's always difficult when you grow up in a certain place and obviously you're used to it, you don't know anything different. But when you come from a different country and you see what Honduras has, like the richness, the diversity of life, it is somewhere really special. So
Yes,
you should all be proud of that.
Of course, yes. Do you think maybe like Honduran people will want to be more involved if this was taught in school?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think that will give them the background, of knowledge, so then they pursue it.
Yes,
Definitely.
I believe that, because me as a Honduran, nobody taught me this.
Yeah.
Like they taught me about the Mayas, but they never taught me about like civilizations in the Bay Islands, or like nothing deep, about like marine life or how to protect the reef, because this is the second biggest barrier coral reef in the world.
Yeah.
Everybody comes here to dive. So like we need to protect this somehow, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And do you think like the coral bleaching is more because of the climate change or because of the increasing on tourism in the island? Or both?
Well, a bit of both, but definitely primarily it's a climate change driven thing. So, you know, the temperature of the oceans rising, that causes the corals to expel their algae that they're symbiotic with. And that's what causes the bleaching. So they lose all their color and they're basically white. And that's not good for the coral because the algae helps it obtain nutrients. So when it loses that relationship, it's, you know, basically dying.
So once it's dead, it cannot come back to color again.
They can come back.
Yeah, they can come
back, but it's difficult for them. Obviously, once they expel the algae, then they have to, you know, culture it all over again. It's a relationship that they've fostered for years and years, and then, you know, just expel them because either temperature's too high or sometimes like acidity.
Exactly.
And
it has to be a certain temperature to evolve again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So.
Got it.
That's obviously, as the climate gets warmer and warmer, there's a huge concern that corals won't adapt quick enough, and you know, they'll be less and less in the future.
Yes, that is very sad. So I know here in Utila they're like doing like several projects on cultivating like baby corals. So if there's a baby coral, can that die as well because of the climate change more easily than the big coral, right?
Yeah, I mean they're both equally susceptible, I'd say. There are a lot of quite successful programs here on Utila doing coral reef nurseries, where they have kind of like the Christmas tree coral stands that grow the coral and then they outplant them back into the reef. And that's worked really successfully with like staghorn corals and stuff. So it's definitely promising, but with things like climate change, it's, you know, it's kind of out of our control. And it's not necessarily just on a local level, but a global scale. So
right.
It's a very difficult thing to combat.
Nice. Yes, definitely something to be aware of, and everybody that is visiting here like needs to be aware of the sunscreen, at least to help a little bit, you know,
of course.
And not to damage more.
Just little steps that you can take just to help.
Exactly,
really.
Individual steps.
And most people aren't aware. It's not like, you know.
They don't know because they don't even know sometimes that there is a coral. Like a lot of people, Honduran, they don't know a lot, you know, because they don't come to dive, they come to vacations. So I think like people that comes to dive specifically, they know about it. They are more educated about that, but Honduran people has to be more educated about that and know more about the ocean.
Of course, like your typical tourist who's not coming to dive would have less awareness of, you know,
but
the marine ecosystem.
That's the work we're doing right now. That's good.
Outreach. You just got to spread the word. And
amazing. So I was very interesting about all the paperwork you have about like Utila Times. Somebody really needs to come back with that newspaper again because I love it.
It would be fantastic. I also love reading them. So we have a collection of like historical newspapers. One of the earliest ones is the Utila Messenger. And Utila's still spelt with a double L. It's from like 1921, so it's like 100 years old. And it's fascinating, like reading the content of them, and you see that the island has the same problems really that haven't changed in that time span. So
and it has been
really
a long
interesting.
time.
Yeah.
Yes, and there's like some paperwork about some pirate story. You know, some like pirate story that you want to share?
Oh, I mean, there's lots of famous pirates that are, you know, supposedly passed through Utila. You have like the Blackbeards and Morgans and all those big family names.
Do you have like a Blackbeard?
A Blackbeard story. I'm trying to think. I can't think off the top of my head, but there is a lot of myths and legends, and definitely some really cool books as well that tell these stories.
Have you been like interested on looking for a treasure? Maybe do you?
Oh, of course. It's something that's fascinated me really ever since I found, you know, just a tiny bit of a broken ceramic or a pot or any kind of artifact. I just got instantly hooked because, you know, it's very rare that you can go to places and see objects that have been there, you know, 500, 1,000 years, not moved, they're untouched. And it's fascinating.
Do you think, is there any proof like these pirates came to Utila? Have you found any proof in your like search?
Of pirates?
Pirates?
Oh, definitely, So I actually found a coin, a French coin from 1589. So like 16th century. And that's right at the start of the kind of colonial period. Like the Spanish only arrived in, 1521, so about 50 years after that, the rest of Europe were catching on. The French, the Dutch, later the English started arriving because they were getting very jealous of all the gold and riches that the Spanish were bringing back.
Right.
So they kind of settled on the Bay Islands as pirates because there was never a Spanish colony that settled here. They were more concerned with the mainland. So this place became like the perfect hotspot for pirates just to wait out, looking for the Spanish ships to come sailing by and then hijack them or ambush them.
So what was the difference between, because I'm confused, what is the difference between pirates and Cristobal Colon that came here? Like for me, they are both getting stuff from somewhere that don't belong to them.
They are essentially pirates. I mean, pirates is a bit of a fanciful term, I suppose. But ultimately, they were all buccaneers, explorers, adventurers that just went out there. They were all searching for riches. They wanted to discover something. Yeah, and
they would take it away from you.
Of course, there was no ethics back then about how they went about it. So it was a completely different world. But essentially, the pirates came a bit later, I think. Like generally, 16th, 17th century. Your typical pirate.
Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's funny.
And we have lots of evidence of cannonballs and cannons around here. So, and axes, all sorts of different things, old swords.
Amazing. That is very interesting. Yes, we're going to show a little bit of that later. Right. Yes. So I heard in Utila, well, the only caves I know in Utila here are the Sweetwater caves that I have done some videos about that already. But I heard there was more than 20 caves. And then you told me like, oh no, there's more than, definitely more than 20 caves in the whole island. Yeah. So what are these caves about? Who lived here? What they were used for?
I mean, it's fascinating. So Utila's a volcanic island. So a lot of it has a really interesting geology. And that's kind of what has allowed all these different caves to form. There's various different freshwater caves and also bat caves that are really important.
There's more freshwater caves.
Yeah, there's about at least 5 or 6 different freshwater caves.
Wow.
Many of them possibly connected because they're all in the same general area.
Okay.
And it's rumored that they connect underwater. To each
Have you done cave dive?
A little bit, but I'm always very careful in that because it's a very dangerous thing.
A lot of people have died here for that because they go and experiment and they don't have that, credential.
Special equipment or just you have to be very, very careful.
Very careful
cave diving. So
cave dive.
Use common sense and don't push your luck.
No, and even free dive. I have seen people in the Sweetwater caves, they go through that hole and they told me there was another.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, thank you. I'm good here.
I don't risk that either.
No, that's cool. So for example, the pirates and the payas put treasures here, stones, people you have found stones in the caves, right? And artifacts.
Yeah, so the caves were really offertories. So the beliefs of the pre-Hispanic people was ultimately the caves were seen as entrances to the underworld. So kind of the places where the gods lived, freshwater caves especially, connected to the rain god because little drips of water dripping from the cave, they believed that he lived in there, So during times of drought or when they really wanted rain for their crops, they would give offerings in there. And it's also a place where they bury their dead as well. So kind of put the bones of their relatives, the skulls and bones, they bury them first somewhere else and then dig them up and then put them in the caves.
Wow, why was that? Why they dig them?
That's part of their kind of journey into the afterlife. Putting them there at the entrance of the underworld, it's kind of
what a compromise.
It's fascinating. And we still, we really don't know much about their beliefs.
Right, no, I have no clue for sure.
Yeah.
Have you, when you go to these caves, have you found bones?
Yes, definitely.
Human bones?
Some of them have human bones.
And what do you guys do when you guys found, bones?
Well, human bones, I've always left them in place, I never removed them or anything. But it's very fascinating. Some of the freshwater caves have the remains of, children, basically. Children that were maybe... they could have died or were sacrificed there. There's a lot of rumors about, the Aztec rain god, they used to sacrifice crying children to him, and the tears of the children were meant to bring on the rain. So there's a lot of kind of connections to explore and look at. But ultimately, no one really knows how those, remains ended up in there, or what kind of rituals or ceremonies, or what was happening.
Right.
It's all a mystery.
Yes, that's very interesting. I heard a lot of people told me that when you found something in like caves, or do not take any bones, because then you're gonna be hunted. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, there's plenty of those rumors of curses and spirits following you. So
have you heard about like some a haunted cave story that somebody told you that was like scary?
I mean, people have told me they've been haunted before, local islanders that took things away, and they, claim they couldn't sleep at night and things. So it's very interesting. But me personally, I've never had a kind of paranormal
experience. You never had a paranormal?
But I'm open-minded to it.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So I want to talk about who was here in Utila before the English people came.
Yeah.
So we know that there was like some civilizations before. Like, who were they? How many civilizations were here before?
Yeah, it's a really good question and not an easy answer. But, well, common knowledge is that the Pesh or the Paya Indians were here first. They're from like the year 300 or year 600.
That is before Christ.
No, after Christ, yeah. 600 AD until about 1500s when the Spanish arrived.
Pesh and Payas is the same. Like, what is the difference between those names?
So Paya is the historical name for them, which in Spanish apparently means like savages. It was kind of like a derogatory term that was given to them. So in more recent times, they prefer to be called Pesh, which means people.
Of course.
So that's what they prefer. But there's a lot of, it's interesting to change the names because you also lose a lot of information, because almost everything that's written about them refers to them as Paya Indians. So if you're to search Pesh culture, you're probably not gonna get much results or information back. So
and who gave them that name?
I guess it was just termed by the first Spanish arriving. Called them the Payas. If that, translated to like savages, it was because of, the different rituals they were doing on the island, and obviously completely different viewpoint to the Christians coming across from Spain. Like, they would have seen it and been, very shocked. It was,
of course, it was different. They were living in this little island beautifully.
Oh yeah, it was harmony, I'm sure.
Harmony, beautifully, living in nature.
Yeah,
that sounds nice. So is the Pesh the only civilization that was living before the English people here, or do you have any signs that there was more civilization?
So it's very interesting because Utila is a small island, obviously, in the Western Caribbean, and basically any area of Mesoamerica that was engaging in trade during that time, so Guatemala, Mexico, Belize, people heading out to sea on little dugout canoes as merchants trying to trade stuff. So a lot of these different cultures ended up just finding Utila by chance, So there was a lot of different cultural influences and trade items coming across from different places. And it's definitely a hot topic of debate, like who the original islanders were. Like, were they Pesh, were they Talupan or Maya, or, other origins. And it's also interesting because the Pesh migrated down from South America. So they brought like a South American dialect that they speak, which is very different to other dialects in Honduras. So there was definitely a lot of movement of people, trade of items, and we have lots of good examples of that here in the collections, like green obsidian that can only be found in Mexico, for example, that we know traveled from Mexico to here. Other metal trade goods, really exciting ones that show possible links to the Aztecs or Mixtecs in Mexico.
Wow.
It's still a lot to discover.
But like in that time, how this exchange happened? Like, they were navigating in little boats, because like I imagine there was no big boats in that time for them. It was like little canoes.
Yeah, but some of them were pretty big apparently. I mean, Christopher Columbus, when he wrote in his diary about his encounter here. So for those who don't know, Christopher Columbus, on his fourth voyage to discover the Americas.
Well,
obviously not a discovery.
Yeah, it's not discovered, but he found it.
Yeah, landed in the Americas. he stopped on Guanaja, which is on 1502, Bonaca, and he called it the Island of the Pines because it was filled with pine trees back then. But he wrote in his diary like a really interesting account of his, how he met those people, the kind of materials they had, how they lived on the island. And that account is, really valuable. And a lot of the items that we found here on Utila kind of correlate with that.
Nice. So the Pesh people was in Guanaja, Utila, and Roatán.
Yes. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So they occurred on all of the islands. Probably the largest. Well, again, it's up for debate really where the largest settlement was. Roatán's obviously the biggest island.
The biggest island, yeah.
But Utila's much closer to the mainland, so it's easier to trade or movement of people between it.
True.
And there's evidence that a lot of people were living on Utila back then. Just the sheer amount of archaeological remains, and not just the quantity, but the coverage of them. Basically, the whole island is really an archaeological site. Anywhere you dig a hole, you can probably find a little broken piece of pottery that shows, people were there.
That's amazing. What do you think, what type of things they were trading here in Utila? Like, do you think like fruits and vegetables? Because this island, like the vegetables and fruit that grow here is a lot and easily.
Yeah.
Do you think they were like trading like food for
definitely.
Stones, precious stones and stuff like that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like all the jade and obsidian and other, all these lithic stone materials had to come from somewhere because Utila doesn't really have much in terms of like geological stuff. It's mostly volcanic rock and shells and things like that. But yeah, probably the primary allure for people to move here. So I always imagine that, the Pesh people are in the coastal area of Honduras. They look out to sea on a clear day and you can see the silhouettes of the islands out there. And they're just like, right, we're going to go there, it's a challenge.
Oh, we need to go, yes.
And, but probably more marine resources, right? Like things like conch shells, sharks, manatees, turtles, which were very important to them culturally and probably super abundant here on the islands. They were just, pristine havens filled with birds, probably seabirds nesting all over the islands. Thousands of turtles. Like it just would have been, a paradise, like untouched paradise.
That really sounds like a paradise.
Yeah.
Do you know, like in your search, how many Pesh people lived here in Utila? Like,
I mean, it's completely debatable, but I mean, a lot of historical accounts tend to underestimate it, and that's because the Spanish didn't necessarily want to know. Or didn't want to let other people know how many people they'd enslaved or how many they'd killed during that raid, So they'd say, oh, there was only 500 people there, as opposed to like 2,000, it would make it better for them. But it definitely seems like there was a dense population of people here just by the sheer amount of archaeological remains and all over the islands. Yeah, there would have been probably thousands of people. But there's one account that I remember in a Spanish slave trade ship where it collected 400 people from Utila and as slaves, and they were taking them to Cuba. And those people actually managed to kind of break free. As they were nearing Cuba, they managed to overpower the captain or whatever, and they turned it back around and sailed home to the Bay Islands. It's like a big myth, legendary story.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it in those times.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of that was happening in Utila. So take us please a little bit back in time. So if we could see Utila when the Pesh lived here, how that was. They were living close to the beach, inside Utila, in a cave, they had homes, how was that?
Yeah, I mean, the island back then was completely different, really. I mean, you look at Utila now, covered in coconut trees. None of them were there at the time of the native people. They came, 400 years ago or so. So fairly recently. But yeah, the Paya or the Pesh would have been living in the coastal areas. They were very expert fishermen and really good at agriculture as well. So they used the more inland areas, mainly the hills, elevated places. They'd chop down the forest a bit there, plant maize and yucca and other kind of crops there. And yeah, they would have lived in very simple, kind of thatch housing, little mud palm leaf rooftops. And there really isn't any kind of evidence of their houses, any old buildings left. They've all decomposed.
Everything was Yeah.
But what you see at the archaeological sites is lots of mounds. So it's never like a flat ground. It's lots of little mounds, and they are essentially just piles of shells and broken artifacts that they piled up over time, like living in those areas, like a rubbish pile basically. But over time that became a feature, like a ceremonial feature.
Wow.
Of the landscape.
What kind of ceremonies these people had? Like
Yeah.
what they did? Like the Mayas had so many ceremonies. So it was the same with the Pesh?
Yeah, definitely. So they were influenced by other major cultures of the time, like the Maya, and they shared lots of similar beliefs. Really, with all kind of Mesoamerican cultures are very intertwined. And I forgot where I was. Can you sit?
They're fine.
Yeah.
I think I forgot to.
It was good though.
Yes, I remember. The rituals. What kind
the
of
rituals. Yeah, so it is really lost to time because there's no like written history. You know, everything is
like nothing in the rocks, like nothing like that.
No kind of petroglyphs. You know, it is likely that they had like codices, like books in a way, because we find lots of bark beating stones here, and this is a very specific artifact that you used to make paper or clothes with. So we know they were making paper from tree bark, and they probably, you know, had...
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's very advanced.
Yeah, they were quite advanced. They weren't like super nomadic.
They were not savages at all.
No, they weren't
like
savages. They were very, you know, quite advanced for their period. You know, they had access to metal tools, which were really rare in that time, super valuable because of the amount of time it took to make them.
Right.
So they were, you know, quite prominent trade partner. Well, this was a trade station really.
Commerce,
where lots of people come in and trade in. In terms of rituals, I have a theory that the rain god was really quite a prominent deity among them. And that's because, they're living on a small island. You have a dry season, a rainy season. So for half the year, you're just hoping that it's going to rain so you can grow your crops. So it's just the climate of the place.
Do you think, according to your like search and everything, if there was like human sacrifices as the Aztecs here, like in Utila?
I mean, it seems quite possible, honestly. Not to the scale of the Aztecs, obviously, like grand temples with just a conveyor belt of, constant sacrifices. It wasn't like that. But it was more, ritualistic. They'd probably just do it in times of real emergency, I suppose, like if there was natural disasters or droughts or people were getting desperate and they needed to appease the gods. That's probably when they'd resort to that. But there is evidence that early archaeological studies show photographs of some of the graves that they, unearthed. And it's like a ring of like 7 skulls, like all facing the same direction. So very like ritualistic burials. They weren't just, putting their dead in the ground. They were arranging them in very specific places, all facing the same direction.
And like how the Indian cemeteries at the other side of the island, how difficult was to get there from where we are to there?
Yeah.
Walking with a dead body to bury there?
Yeah, it's a long way, definitely.
It's a long way in a boat in that time or walking.
Yeah.
It's like both the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of it being like the Indian cemetery, it probably was just a place where people lived and died, like they were living there. It wasn't exclusively a cemetery, but they were living in that coastal area, harvesting, all the fish and the conch. It's just a beautiful little harbor bit where it's really accessible. So they were probably, living, fishing there, gathering resources. But there was loads of little routes that connected all these sites on Utila. So it was like a big maze, really, and they made a lot of roads. And some of those roads you still see today because they have the really old rocks on them.
Yes. No, it's pretty cool. Like yesterday, Gunter was showing us like the exact map of Utila. And he was explaining like most of the sites. And like, it's amazing because you cannot see that on Google Maps.
No, I know. And that map that Gunter made is really special. Like, it essentially helped me set up the museum. It's a legit map. Yeah.
That is the legit map of Utila.
It is.
Yes.
A lot of secrets in that map.
A lot of secrets in that map that only he knows too.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. Why do you think like people do not talk about this?
It's amazing, really, because I lived here for like 5 years before I really got interested in it, and I was completely unaware that the island even had, ancient history per se. And I was so shocked, especially when finding some of these archaeological sites that they're right there. They're like, exposed. You can see everything. It's like incredible. You can't go to other places and just be like, oh, look, I'm right here in the middle of this,
True.
place. So yeah, Utila should really protect those assets because they're important spaces and they're not renewable. Like once they're gone or once they get developed on, they're erased forever. And that would be such a shame for the islands.
Yeah, that would be such a shame. Definitely this needs to be heard more. And
and I guess also probably one reason people don't talk about it is because there's no like living descendants of those people on the island still. So it's kind of like an unclaimed culture, no one really has a claim to it, I suppose.
Yes, modernization. Well, I don't know if that's a word in English. Well, modernization is good, but it has to be a balance between history and modern world.
Yeah.
Like we all need to, evolve together because these people is important. That's why we are here too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're part of our history, and if you don't learn from lessons of the past, you're gonna repeat them in the future. So definitely, it's really important to understand what happened here and tell that story.
Yeah. So what was the thing that you were most amazed when you found out about like this pesh culture?
I think what amazed me the most is just how people lived in a very what amazed me the most is finding these artifacts, because in my head I always imagined that they'd be living a very difficult life, or that it was hard to survive, that it was a struggle to find food, to grow crops, to get water here, even like everything must have been very difficult. But amongst all those challenges, they still found time to do all sorts of art and things that you wouldn't necessarily do if you were struggling. So all this amazing artwork really demonstrates that they were thriving, they were prosperous, they had free time, they were intelligent and
Yes, how advanced do you think this culture was, like according to the stars, natural medicine, and architecture?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were very advanced, really, but also just the limitations of the island and what you actually need here to live is probably they were. Didn't necessarily need to go any further than where they were.
Yes, there was plenty of food
here.
Of
course. Yeah, they were already thriving. All the buildings and stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of architecture, it wasn't as grand as like the Mayan temples, like huge carved structures. And these people were ultimately here after the collapse of those big Mayan civilizations. Like it happened a long time afterwards. And almost like the older civilizations were more grand, like they really took it to a next level.
Yes.
And more recent, cultures kind of slowed that down a bit.
Do you know if the Pesh had like any type of calendar, or they were like guided by, I don't know, the stars?
Yeah. I'm sure, definitely they had lots of beliefs in cosmology and different mythology. I don't know much about the exact calendar, so
that would be so interesting to see. Like because
say something
like I guess we know about the Mayas and Aztecs because there is hieroglyphics. Stones that they talk about this, and we don't have nothing like that here. No. At least we haven't found it.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Maybe it's in one of the.
Maybe it could be
15 caves in Utila. So what do you think if like this story, it's like forget? Like everybody forget about this and nobody like do anything to come back to this and to people to know.
I just think it would be a huge shame, like you just erasing a huge part of this island's heritage, like where it came from. And I look at the Pesh people as kind of the sculptures, or they created this landscape that we live in today, like all the trees, the forest, like everything was kind of managed by them on a scale, and it is the way it is now because of how they left it.
How they built
it. Like even the diversity of trees, animals, perhaps they were bringing different animals across, planting different fruit trees and things like the mame, sapote, other things that they would bring with them. So yeah, I just have a huge admiration for that, really. And now, having learnt that, now when I look at the island, I just see it from a completely different lens. Like, it's no longer just a Caribbean island. It's like, this is, you know, people left their mark here for generations, and it's just adds a whole new layer of depth to it.
It does. Like, for me too, now that I'm doing like all these talks to very interesting people, like I can just go to the streets and, wow, this is the oldest building in Utila. And now I'm like more like immersed.
No, it's awesome.
Or this was the first church, or like this was, you know.
And those are things to be proud of as well. Definitely. Like, local people need to look after those things and recognize that, or tourists and foreigners, they, you know, they want to learn about that. That's all part of the trip and experience.
Right. Do you think it has been difficult for you to make this investigation? Have you received like local support?
I have received a lot of support from local people. I've definitely not met any opposition per se, but it's also always hard to, you know, to do things on Utila. It's a small island. Island time, everything moves very slowly.
Yes, slowly.
And, but yeah, I've received a lot of support, and I definitely wouldn't be at this stage without everyone's help and
that is
promotion.
Nice to hear. Yes, that is very nice. In one of your expeditions, have you found something that really got your eye? I know you have found so many things, but there was like something specific that you was like, wow.
I mean, well, yeah, I have a few favorite things that I've, you know, discovered. Probably one of my favorites is like the little whistle.
Can you bring the whistle and do a little?
Yeah, I'll get him. Yeah, so this whistle is around 800 years old, which is just incredible.
800 years old?
Yeah, 800 years old. And it's in the form of a manatee, which is also really special because manatees are extinct on Utila now, but in the past there used to be a lot of manatees here. Like crocodiles, I suppose. So, and manatees were very important to their local culture as well.
Yeah, I want to show it just a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a beautifully crafted instrument, and it's actually a lot of skill goes into making these ocarinas because they're so finely tuned. I wanted to make some replicas to sell as souvenirs, but they're really difficult to make.
Wow, can you play a little song? That is so cool.
Yeah,
800 years old. 800 años.
800 years and pitch perfect.
Like, it sounds pitch perfect.
Yeah,
and
really
it's so difficult to make a souvenir that it's not.
Yeah, I just can't get them to whistle.
Is that like a rock?
It's made out of clay. Yeah. So
it's made out of clay.
It's a ceramic. Yeah. But yeah, lots of different whistles like that in all different forms. So manatee, turtle, bird. And what I love most is it just shows that people had, you know, a connection with nature, and they kind of idolize these creatures, like loved them.
That is very amazing.
Yeah, it's
so they had like several type of instruments besides that whistle, right? Like drums and maracas.
Drums, maracas. They had lots of rattles. Like many of the ceramic pots have kind of rattles built into them, so they could shake them during different ceremonies and things.
Wow.
And, it's a lot of different instruments, and probably lots of wooden instruments too, things that have been lost to time, decomposed. Obviously, you only have a very small snapshot of what remains, like just the stones and the clay, really. Like everything else they had that was decomposable, clothes, you know, it's all lost to time.
So when you do like these investigations and go like for search, who sponsored these? Like, how do you get, you know, like your, I don't know, money or like to invest in this because like it's a trip to go there and to bring the stuff, you know.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, a lot of it, so primarily kind of how we're a biology organization, so we do lots of field work to monitor biodiversity. And really it's a byproduct of doing that field work, exploring remote places that I happened across, you know, archaeological remains. So we haven't had a specifically funded archaeological project, but that's definitely something we are looking to do.
Yes. And, imagine if you have the fund to make this search like properly with more people, with more like equipment. What other things you can find? Oh yeah, no, I mean also just having, you know, experts on site, actual trained archaeologists.
just putting everything into context.
I think this is fascinating. Like
Yeah.
somebody really needs, well, I don't know who that somebody is. Like, do you think it has to be like kind of how organization, government, who?
I mean, definitely government is involved a lot. So, you know, the laws to protect cultural heritage in Honduras are really quite strict. So essentially all artifacts are owned by the government. So
Right.
we have to work very closely with authorities, the Instituto de Antropología y Historia, for example. They give the permission.
Are you guys connected with them?
Yes, we are connected, and hopefully very soon we'll be signing a convenio or agreement really to
That would be
develop the museum.
amazing. That would be
Yeah.
very, very amazing to see that happen here, for sure. So what piece in this museum do you think it's going to change people's perception about Utila?
Good question. I mean, there's a lot of things. It depends, perception in what way. In terms of like rewriting the island's history, some of the metal artifacts that we found, so like a copper pectoral disc and a copper ring, for example, are really rare artifacts in Mesoamerica generally. So to find them here on Utila it poses a lot of questions, like who brought them here, who made them, you know, what origin of culture did it come from? Probably Mexico, so it has some really close ties there, so it's very exciting.
Yeah, that is very exciting.
discover that.
I'm excited to see all this finished up.
Yeah,
You're doing a
yeah.
great job. Like everything looks amazing, and I think this is the proper place to make a museum happen.
It is, definitely. This building was made to be a museum, literally. So
what can you tell us a little bit more about this building? Because a lot of people have seen this building and they have no clue what is this about.
Yeah, so, well, this building's been here for like 20 years at least. It was originally custom built to be a museum. So the owner of Jade Seahorse, another really amazing place that people should visit, he crafted this place. And yeah, but he never really got around to finishing it. So he had huge private collections, but never really finished the museum. So essentially that's something I always wanted to pick up and really help him finish. And I believe it's, you know, incredibly important for Utila, as, you know, an island really, just to have a place where this stuff can be
found in
stored
stories.
safely, and it's going to be here for everyone to learn from. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so.
That's nice. And well, to finish, when was the last? How do you feel like being a foreign and being like involved so much in all this history?
Yeah, I mean it's bizarre for me because I never imagined myself in this situation really, and it's just purely by circumstance and just doing, you know, following my passions. I love exploring, discovering new things, mainly biological research. But I just got completely hooked on this really because I saw it as a niche that no one's really doing anything in. And that was such a shame to me because it's incredible stuff and really needs to be highlighted, promoted, offers a completely new level to
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing it because, you know, like this cannot be forget.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we need to definitely remember this history.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for this interview. Like it was amazing, and now we know more about the Pesh, and we know more about like the history of Utila and so many like untold stories.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting talking to you, Tom.
Thank you, and you, Andre.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Bueno, esto ha sido todo por hoy. Gracias por escucharnos. Recuerden seguirnos en redes sociales como Vive Viajando Catracha, y también podemos encontrar can you say the Kanahau Instagram? Do you know Kanahau Instagram?
Yeah, it's Kanahau_Utila.
Para que así tengan más información acerca de todo lo que se está haciendo para la conservación de la historia marina y de la historia arqueológica de la isla.